You check your bank account on a Tuesday morning, the way you always do, and something feels slightly off. Not wrong, just off. The number is smaller than you expected, though nothing unusual happened. No large purchase, no emergency, just the normal shape of a normal month. And yet you find yourself doing the thing you didn't used to do, glancing at the balance twice, mentally subtracting the rent that hasn't cleared yet, running a small calculation you didn't used to need. At some point, without deciding to, you started budgeting in your head. Not on paper, not in an app. Just a background process that runs constantly now, checking, adjusting, recalculating. You didn't choose this habit the way you choose to go to the gym or start a diet. It arrived quietly, built from 100 small moments you don't remember individually. That's the part worth sitting with. Most people assume they'd notice if their financial behavior changed. They imagine a moment of realization, a decision, a turning point, a before and after. But that's rarely how it works. The adjustment happens first. The noticing comes much later, if it comes at all. Think about the last time your paycheck arrived a day early or a day late because of a holiday or a processing change. You probably felt it before you thought about it. A small shift in when bills got paid, when the grocery run happened, when you allowed yourself a takeout order. Nobody sent a memo asking you to change your rhythm. The system just moved, and your behavior moved with it. Almost instantly, almost invisibly. This is easy to miss because it doesn't look like a system doing something to you. It looks like you making small personal choices, in your own kitchen, on your own schedule. But the timing wasn't yours. The interval between paychecks, the day your rent is due, the date your credit card statement closes. None of that was decided by you, and all of it is quietly dictating the texture of your month. The comforting assumption is that awareness comes first, that you'd notice a system shaping your behavior before you actually changed because of it. It feels reasonable because most decisions we're taught to recognize are the big ones. Buying a house, taking a new job, opening an investment account. Those decisions announce themselves, but the incentives that shape daily behavior rarely announce anything. They just make one path slightly easier than another, over and over, until the easier path becomes the only path you remember choosing. Consider the retirement contribution that got set as a default when you started a job. Maybe it was 3%. Maybe it auto-escalated by 1% a year. A small line in the enrollment paperwork you signed without much thought. You didn't decide each year to save more. The system decided for you, and you adjusted your spending around whatever was left without ever experiencing it as a choice. By the time you noticed your take-home pay felt a little tighter than it used to, the adjustment had already happened. The noticing came after, or think about the subscription that renewed at a slightly higher price. You saw the charge, felt a flicker of irritation, and kept paying it anyway, not because you evaluated the new price and decided it was worth it, but because canceling required more effort than continuing. The incentive wasn't punishment. It was friction, placed exactly where it needed to be to make your existing behavior the path of least resistance. This is the deeper layer. Systems don't need to convince you of anything. They only need to make one option slightly more convenient than the alternative, and repeat that arrangement often enough that convenience becomes identity. You start to think of yourself as someone who saves a certain amount, spends a certain way, keeps certain subscriptions, without ever tracing that identity back to a default setting, a billing cycle, a rate that reset while you weren't looking. And here's where it becomes personal rather than abstract. The behavior that produced this outcome wasn't reckless. It was responsible. You didn't overspend. You followed the enrollment defaults because they were labeled as sensible. You kept the subscriptions because canceling them felt like more trouble than they were worth. You checked your balance more carefully because checking felt like discipline. Every adjustment you made was the kind of thing a careful person does. The system didn't need you to be careless. It only needed you to be normal. The consequence isn't dramatic. It's slower than that. It's the gradual narrowing of what feels optional. The contribution rate that auto-escalated is now just your savings rate, difficult to lower without it feeling like a step backward. The subscriptions that quietly compounded are now just your monthly costs, embedded deeply enough that canceling any one of them feels disproportionate to the relief it would bring. The mental budgeting that started as a background process now runs constantly, and turning it off would feel like losing a kind of vigilance you've come to rely on. None of this arrived as a single decision you could point to and reconsider. It arrived as 100 small adjustments, each one reasonable, each one made before you had time to notice you were making it. What makes this harder to see is that the evidence of adjustment looks identical to the evidence of choice. A stable savings rate looks like discipline. A predictable set of monthly expenses looks like control. There's no visible seam between the behavior a system nudged into place and the behavior you'd have chosen on your own, deliberately, with full information. The two produce the same numbers. Only the origin is different, and the origin is exactly the part that's hardest to trace back. This pattern doesn't stay contained to bank balances and subscription renewals. It extends into how people think about raises, about job offers, about the terms of a lease renewal, about which financial advice they trust simply because it was the first option presented. In each case, the adjustment tends to arrive quietly, ahead of the understanding, and the understanding, if it comes, arrives only when someone stops long enough to ask why a behavior that feels entirely their own lines up so precisely with whatever was easiest to default into. If most of what feels like personal financial discipline is actually the residue of defaults you never chose to question, then how much of what you call your own judgment is really just the shape incentives left behind before you were paying attention? Finance Simplified explores the systems shaping modern financial life,